Today, I want to talk to you about how selling my business led me to discover just how fragile my identity was at that time. And you don't have to be selling a company to experience this. I think a lot of people who change careers or retire or have other large milestones could find themselves in a similar spot. If you're new here, my name is Matthew Strunk. I've built and sold several companies. I've hit the goals that I thought would finally make me happy, but they didn't. So I had to learn to let go of those expectations and rebuild a life around what was actually true for me. So now I create content and I coach people who are going through a similar transition in their life. I still remember the day we closed on the business. It was after months and months of stress because when you're going through that process, it's basically just like entire period of wondering if the deal's gonna fall through because you have negotiations that are going on and renegotiations, you have due diligence, and it's just all this stuff going on. You're spending all this money on lawyers and things of that nature, and it just creates a very stressful environment, if you would. And then on top of that, my wife and I just had our second child, my son, who was born like days before we closed on the deal. So it was just already chaotic. And I remember I was on the back deck waiting for the call that deal's funded and everything else. And I got the call, I hung up, went in my bank account, I saw all the money that was deposited, and it was officially done. And there was such a weird mix of emotions, man. It's like, way back when I started the company, like I always had these dreams of like, when I sell the business, what it would be like. And I had some of the feelings you might expect, like a little bit of excitement, unfortunately. It wasn't a lot, and then also a big sense of relief that the deal was now finally done. But then there was also these unexpected emotions that, I kind of anticipated, but it is what it is because I was so ready to sell the business at the time. But I had a feeling that I now know was like grief almost. And that is what I was not expecting. And what happened afterwards is not what I expected either. Because I thought selling the company would feel like relief, but then it was like I quietly broke something in the process. In the months after the sale, I found myself in this weird state of like less stress because there was less pressure, I guess, or responsibilities. And there was still some, but there was less. But it didn't take long for that to feel like restlessness. Like I was bored and I was like, I need to do something. Like I need chaos. I need like noise, And I was just like, I don't feel like, I don't know, like I need to do something. So I just reverted back to what I knew and I started another business. And I went through this series of like, you kind of go back to your old patterns because you're trying to like put back together something that you lost that you can't explain what it is. At least I couldn't. And research suggests that like a third of founders who sell their business go through like depression and kind of triggers this existential crisis, if you would. And that's what was happening to me. And what it uncovered was like the real problem here wasn't that I sold the business. The sale didn't break anything. The sale revealed what was going on underneath. And what was going on underneath is that my entire sense of self and my self-worth was tied to that version of me. I created in my mind an identity of who Matthew Strunk was, and it included a successful entrepreneur with employees and accolades or whatever else. And now that was gone, my identity collapsed. And that explains the feelings I had of grief because it really is like you let a part of you die or something. And when I finally started to realize that and I just stopped and gave myself some damn space instead of just flailing around starting businesses, I realized that I need to let go of that version. I need to, mourn it, sure, thank it, but it's gone now. And it's not who I am. I am not just a collection of labels. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a grinder and this. No. I just am. And I don't need all those things to feel like I'm enough. And people that I talk to that are going through these big transitions in life are feeling this. That one of the biggest mistakes that I see is the same thing I did, which is that you sort of hurry up to go back to where you were and you don't give yourself the space to allow the new version of you to emerge. And in that space, you have to be willing to dig deep and turn inward and figure out who you are in your truth and realize that your self-worth and who you are as a person has nothing to do with this external crap. And that's something that I had to do myself. I had to learn that I am not the thing that I'm doing. I am the one who's doing it, you know? It made me really wonder, like, what does a less fragile identity look like? And what I found was that it looks like my own core values based off what I truly believe. It looks like my life vision. It looks like what I feel is true in my life. And in doing that, you build a much stronger foundation that you can live your life on, because you are not relying on these external labels or validation. You are just relying on who you are. And it makes everything a lot easier. At least I've found that it has in my life. All right, so yeah, if you're thinking about selling a business or changing careers or retiring or whatever it might be, just be on the lookout for that feeling where you are really questioning your identity, and understand that it's normal, that I've seen it in myself and in a lot of people I've worked with, that they kind of all go through it. It's necessary. And also realize that until you can learn to derive your self-worth from inside, you're going to be facing this sort of uphill battle for a long time. All right, cool. Hey, if you liked that video, then check out this one. I go into a little bit more details on what the in-between is, and hopefully you like it. Catch you on the next one.